Well, here we are at a little car meet that was on Australia Day at the local RSL, and it was a classic and rod show. So there were some classic cars and some hot rods as well. So we thought we'd wander down and have a bit of a look around. And there's a bit of the Holden clan and a bit of a Chevrolet as well. Nice big old Chev. I'm having to do a voiceover because there was a bit of a live band playing. So, yeah, you'll just have to put up with my dulcet tones for the next however long. So, yeah, and there's a couple of little surprises near the end of this video. So you might want to watch it right through. And, of course, there's a bit of a Ford looking rather red. But this red really struck my eye, which I think you all know what it is. And the colour scheme on this was absolutely beautiful. And I like the way they continued the same colour scheme on the inside as well from the outside. So it was pretty continuous. But absolutely stunning, this thing. And they certainly put a lot of time and money and effort into it to make it look the best it could. But of course, I think any classic car like that, it doesn't really matter how it looks. They all look good, don't they? And we have a bit of a sneak inside and have a look behind the wheel. Very nice. Something to be said about these old cars, isn't there? And I think we've seen that HR Ute at Holden Day and probably a few other shows. And a nice little HB Torana. A lot of people poo-poo the HB Torana, but I think they're kind of quaint. I don't mind them. Sort of reminds me a bit of the Vauxhall as well. And then we move over to a pretty original looking Ford. And I think you can just see his little Australian flags fluttering on top. Of course, supposed to be the Day of the Australian. So, yeah, he had the flags flying. And next door to him was an Australian XP Falcon. I think they were reasonably popular at one stage. And later on we'll see an XM, the model before the XP, which I rather like the front of the XM better than the XP for some reason. But anyway, that's just me. And next to that was a nice Chevrolet Ute. Of course, looking very, very much like an FJ utility, but a bit bigger. But very nice to see as well. And you know, had all the bits and pieces that you'd expect to get from the Chev of that era. Yeah, there's probably a few other cars on the front of that I can see as well. And of course, it was being a hot rod show as well, so of course there was a couple of hot rods. And of course, a Lou Corvette. And this very interesting looking hot rod with a very interesting colour scheme on it. Now here's an XM, and yeah, I think I like the front of the XM just slightly better than the XP, but that's just me. What do you guys think? Maybe say something in the comments if you want to. And here's a flat head hot rod, and he had a very interesting roof cover on this. It looked like it was all aluminium with about 1 million pop rivets on it, which was very interesting, the way it was all laced together. And he had Jesus inside to help him as well. I thought it was rather cool. And of course, not to be outdone, there was one Volkswagen there. I forget what they call those. Were they were like a Volkswagen utility, I suppose. A few more hot rods. Of course, it's hard to tell with a lot of these hot rods. This one was interesting. Had a very interesting paint job on it. And then, of course, there was this. And, yeah, for something a little bit more 80s or late 80s, this was had to be one of my favourites out of the later model cars. And then, of course, we move on to a Ford Thunderbird. Very red Thunderbird. And I'd never taken much notice before, but I did notice that when I swing around, you'll see in the back it had one rear speaker between the two passenger seats, which was rather interesting. So each passenger on each side had to share the speaker. But that was very cool to see too, along with this other Ford, earlier model Ford. I'm not sure what year that would be, but my guess would be 30s, 40s, something like that. But very cool to see. And of course a Falcon utility or wagon, or yeah. And another hot rod, purple one. And then we move on to a Ford Escort, the little Escort. I think those and the little Tiranas were about the same time, weren't they? And of course there's the Morris Minor with its big block V8 in it. Very interesting. I'd love to know how he got that motor in that car, because there ain't a lot of room in that engine bay. Even with that motor, there's no room. I think the clearance between the front and the radiator is barely non-existent. And this one was Chrysler Firepower, had on the rocker covers. Very shiny, but you can just make it out. Chrysler Firepower. But that was very cool too. And then we move on to a couple more Thunderbirds. One light blue and one darker blue. Oh, you gotta love the style, don't you? And of course with the nice long bodies on them, the paint sort of looks really good on them too. Interesting seats in those, very interesting seats, and the way almost like a headrest that sloped right back to the boot lid. And of course he had a few Australian flags draped over him. And then we move on to, I think this was a Willys supposed to be, but looking nothing like a Willys that I sort of have seen in books and in life. And of course a couple more cars to look at around. As I said, there was plenty to see, and you know, even though it was a small event, there was still quite a good roll up really, and a lot of interesting things to look at too. And it's always interesting to see what people have done to their cars, and you know, how they dress them up and how they make them their own sort of thing. But yeah, that one was very shiny paint. Now, I think I record this one twice, so you'll get to see two shots of this one. And I mainly well, mainly because I thought it was a very, very nice HQ Kingswood, but also too I wanted to make or show a little video to my friend Everything Cars, who's got a bit of a thing for these. So as soon as I saw it, I thought, well, I had to include that in the video for him, and so he could have a bit of a look at it. And later on, I'll show inside it a bit too. And of course, there was this Torana G-Pack, of course, a little bit modded with a bonnet scoop. But I believe the G-Pack was the Torana that came out with I think it was a few $100 worth of extras on it, and they called it a G-Pack back in the day. But very typical colour scheme of the era. And nice to see too. G-Pack. And of course we've seen this Holden, I think, a few times at Coffee and Chrome. But always amazes me, you don't recognise the car at first, especially when it's in different locations. And, you know, most of the time you see them on, well, I've seen them on bitumen and not on grass. And when you see them on grass, they look a little bit different. But still nice to see. And absolutely immaculate. And then I move back again to this Chevrolet. Lovely two-door this. And a lot of airspace in that cabin, isn't there? A lot of airspace. And plenty of glass to let in lots of light. So, yeah, as I said, I have to do a voice. I'm pity I have to do a voice over this because there was some nice engine sounds later on, and but unfortunately I can't put them on because there was also very loud music playing. So, and I don't think YouTube would appreciate it. So that's why we're doing it this way. This was a very interesting hot rod, and he had some very unique sort of pinstriping on it. And I feel a bit sorry I didn't actually focus more on the pinstriping because it was very, very interesting to look at and very detailed. Another nice Camaro. And he was parked a little bit close to the fence, so I was hoping that I'd be able to get right behind him, but there wasn't much room to get behind there with the focus of the camera, so I was unable to get that behind him that much. And of course, this Holden has been around at a few different shows, and his number plate's minty, and I think you can guess why. I think it might have something to do with the colour, just as a guess. But very nice to see. Or Mint 61. And then we roll up to this beautiful old Pontiac. And I have seen this once or twice down the end of my parents' street, actually. And I did do a spot on it once a while back now, and put it up as a TikTok, which did reasonably well. It's a beautiful, beautiful Pontiac, this one. Very, very nice. And it was nice to look it over once again. And here's somebody leaving a little bit earlier. Like I said, some of these cars had some wonderful sounds, but you know, I'd love to put it on, but the music side of it might upset things a bit. So we have to put up with just my dulcet tones. And then I moved out to the car park where a couple of cars were out there that didn't participate in the actual ground part, and saw this beautiful black Torana. Very, very shiny. And I like his number plate, Tory, because that's what everybody used to call them, wasn't it? You never said Tirana, it was always, oh, the Tory. How's your Tory? But still, it was very cool to see. And looking black and menacing. And next door to that was this beautiful Buick. And absolutely massive, massive car. Right from the bonnet through to the cabin, through to the boot. Just everything about it was just massive. And, you know, I mean, the boot on it is just ginormous. Probably not that deep, but, you know, in height, but in depth, very, very long. And the part that interested me on this Buick was the wraparound rear window, and it's the what do you call it? The parcel shelf, absolutely massive. And how they got that glass around there, that's just incredible. And of course, it had lots of little intricate bling bits on it as well, which added to its flair, shall we say. But absolutely gorgeous, and that blue just really made it pop. Then, of course, we go to this beautiful FC Holden, which also had some bling, but not as much bling as what the Buick had on it, but still very, very cool to see. And we have a bit of a walk around that. As you can see, it had a few of its extra trimming bits that you could get, which just sort of finish them off a bit. Very nice. And then this was the cream of the crop. This lovely old Cadillac. I'm not sure what year it'd be from, but it was absolutely gorgeous. Looked absolutely, which it would be heavy as, but yeah, I can imagine like the American presidents going around in this back in the day, or, you know, royalty or whatever. But absolutely beautiful. I'd say it would rate as up there with the Packard of its day. Luxury fit for a king or a queen or a president. Now we've gone back to the HQ, of course, and this is where we get a bit of a look inside. And as I said, I wanted to show it off a little bit more to my YouTube friend Everything Cars, so he could get a bit more of a feel for these things, as he's only ever seen them in pictures, and has got a bit of a liking for them. So I thought I'd give him a bit of a treat and show him inside. It was an automatic, unfortunately, but still, it's still a Holden, and it's still a HQ, and it's still a Kingswood. But I just thought the colour on this one was absolutely gorgeous. Very, very nice indeed to see. And next door was its later version, which, as most people said, oh, they were just the facelifted HQs. Well, they probably were, but still, I quite like the facelift look of these as well. And you know, even if they were basically the same car, still very cool, and still a Kingswood. Here's a couple, or one more going off. Moving. As I said, It's just a pity I couldn't put the sounds on. And then we have another further look at this HSV, or Walkinshaw Special, with its lot of its body kit on it, very much of its time. And you know, I think there was only about 700 and something of these made, so a very rare beast indeed. And the owner did tell me he's got the little aerials on there. They don't do anything, but he said it makes it look like a race car. And another one leaving. And the little HB Tirana leaving. I think it's cool to sort of see the cars come and go too. Then I went back out to the car park again, and because this Mustang, late model Mustang, turned up, so I thought it'd be cool to have a bit of a look at him. As much as I like the older stuff, I don't mind checking out the newer stuff too, just as a bit of an interest. But I think I still like the older Mustangs better. And just as I was filming, I think another one did turn up, so I will get a bit of a look at that too. So yeah, as you can see, a few had left, and there was a few spaces being opened up in the field under the trees. And this was a nice old Ford, and he had a very nice blue paintwork on it. I'd love to know what colour it was, or what the colour's called, but it was a very, very nice deep blue, metallic of course. But that was a very nice paint job on that, as you can see. The reflection of the clouds and everything else. And I think that's a non-standard steering wheel too, just as a guess. And then, of course, we moved on to this modern Chevy Camaro with all its latest engine and whatever else. And it's sort of, yeah, I mean, it's nice to look at, but it doesn't really do much for me like the older cars, unfortunately. So yeah, we didn't spend too much time looking at him. And then we've just I think we've just roaming around a little bit more, and then we watch a couple go off. But no, it was a brilliant day all round. The weather was good, and very, very nice, enjoyable time, and very nice people too, as car people always are. And here we are back looking at an older Mustang that was next to the new one. I thought it'd be rather cool to check that out too. And he had a nice light blue paint work on him, which was nice to see. And we have a bit of a squiz inside him as well. Well, we might bring you some more later on from a different car show. So if you do like this stuff, don't forget to like and subscribe. And yeah, we might do another car show if this one does well. And we'll just show a couple of them going off. So I'll say thanks again, guys, for watching, and we'll see you definitely in the next one.